She drives a shiny new car. I wear shiny old slacks. She's got the fresh ideas. I spout threadbare, worn out facts. But she's my girlfriend. She's my brand new girl. And I'm sitting on top of the world, 'cause I got a brand new girl. She blows her money like a whirlwind. I got a brand new girlfriend. She say it's not about the money, it's all about my love. The friends say it just looks funny. What's the girl thinking? What's the girl thinking? What's the girl thinking of? But she's my girlfriend. She's my brand new girl. And I'm sitting on top of the world, 'cause I got a brand new girl. She blows her money like a whirlwind. I got a brand new girlfriend. 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 I got a brand new girl. Brand new girlfriend. Got a brand new girl. I got a brand new girl. I got a brand new girlfriend. Got a brand new. I got a brand spanking new girlfriend. Brand new girlfriend. I got a hand-me-down dog. I keep a second-hand cat. We all live together in a one-room run-down flat. I drive a Nash Rambler car.
Alrighty, so welcome to the stream. We're doing something very different here. So, I recently got my disk drive fixed for my Apple II. And this means I can finally use my Apple II. And one game I've been waiting to try for a long time is Tanktics, which is this right here. So what we've got going on is, in that window there, we're going to have my Apple II. Down here in the corner is an interesting legend that I'm going to be using to gauge the quality of the units that we're going to be using, because that's going to become important throughout this. And then obviously here with my caricature hands, this is the board itself. And the way it works is that the Apple II, as it's running, is going to be acting as the artificial intelligence for this game, and it's going to be telling us where to place our units initially. We tell it what kind of units we want to play in what scenario, and then it does the rest. So Doc, I just want to confirm before we start this, since this is a new setup for me, can you hear me okay, and can you see the things? Like right now, the Apple II is going to be a blue screen until we turn it on, but I'm kind of checking my chat here to make sure that you can tell me that things are good. And also, if you think you posted and I haven't recognized it, text me on the cell phone because I'm also testing a new way of viewing the chat. So maybe I'm not getting your messages. I apologize to anyone else watching this after the fact for the delay. This is what happens when you try a new setup from scratch. Like you're gonna be testing on a few rough edges. Cool, so I'm not seeing Chris's messages. Okay. Let me try this real quick. Apologies also for my phone being super dorky. Thought I just silenced that. Okay. Give me 1 second. I need to try a different thing because I need to be able to see the chat during this. And my laptop is in a weird spot. Also, fun fact, the YouTube Android app is garbage. I don't like it. Boo earns. It had failed to properly update chat, and in general doesn't provide the same interface as PC, so if I want to stream, I can't initialize any of the stream configuration from my phone, because it insists that if I'm doing it from my phone, it must in fact want to, or think I want to stream from my phone's camera, which is just not true. So I'm setting up an alternate laptop here on the side. It's going to have the chat, and we'll be underway shortly. Again, apologies for the delay. Part of what does make this complicated also is the only camera I have in-house right now that's worth anything is the webcam attached to my laptop. So that screen's pointing at a really weird angle where I can't really read it. I've had a couple tricks so I can at least see that the scene is set up, but yeah, I can't really see my own laptop I'm streaming from. Alright, so log into my alternate laptop here. We'll get our chat going momentarily. Come on, you old dog. We're almost there. Okay. I think I'm back. Doc, if you go ahead and post me one more thing, we'll be good to go. And do not mind the clipping on the capture window for the Apple II because it's a 16 by 9 picture of a 4 by 3 image. Like, it's not actually cutting off anything. All right, yes I do. Great, we can finally get started. Okay, so I've got here the disc for the game. We're going to go ahead and pop her into the Apple II, which I have sitting beside me, and boot this bad boy up. And I'll explain some of what we're doing as we go. There we go. You can probably hear that drive going. So right now the game's loading. So while this is loading, you can see the different pieces are presented with these little cardboard punch-outs, and the game actually came with this big sheet, different punch-outs. The blue is the German army, that's us. The orange is the Russian army, that is the computer. The reason why there are far fewer German pieces is that you'll see as we go ahead and configure our game of Tanktics, the computer always starts with double the number of tanks that we do, so naturally you're going to need more pieces. So as you can see, you're not going to get any audio from the game. I'm what you get. Yeah. Welcome to 1981. I can hum you a tune if you'd like, but this is what there is. So, the manual outlines 5 different scenarios that we can play, and essentially we're inputting this with numbers 1 through 5. These end up getting higher in complexity as the game goes on. So we're going to start with scenario 1, the meeting engagement. And the manual reads for this, in this scenario, the computer places its tanks and your tanks somewhere on the map. An objective hex is specified. The object is to move to and occupy the objective hex while eliminating the enemies as soon as possible. I mean, it's quite possible the computer's cheating. So let's select scenario 1. So how many tanks for me? Well, I don't know how many tanks are good or bad. But I think the fewer tanks, the easier it is going to be for us to manage. So I'm going to pick 4 tanks. Now, this gets into why we have this legend here on our screen. So, on the back, I was originally going to put this up as an image, but it didn't come out well at all. See, this is the manual. On the back, it has this table that we also have pointed to the side right over there. And it gives ratings for armor, gun type, and movement cost. And this is supposed to be the primary way that the player configures the difficulty of the game. Because we get to pick, for our 4 tanks, what type of tank each one is. And the first 5 there under the German tanks that you see, those are all actual tanks that can move around. And you can see that number 5 is way, way better than number 1. Because it has less of a movement cost and better gun and better armor. So like that's probably a good candidate for a beginner tank. Those ones with stars under the armor and a movement of 0, those are actually anti-tank guns. So those are entrenched artillery. They can shoot in any direction, but they can't move. I'm going to avoid those for this game because that might make it harder for me to play because I am not a good strategic thinker and I don't really know the rules of this game. And you can see for the Russians, they have their own ratings as well. And the way this works is you pick your type for each of the tanks, and then you pick a single type that all of the Russian tanks take. So for this case, I'm going to be lazy, and we're going to get all number 5 tanks. So, and then the Russians are going to have the number 1. How we build the board. Yeah, potentially. Hopefully part of the advantage also is that I'm a human with a brain as opposed to whatever the algorithm is that the game's using. But we'll see. Like, I have not actually played this, so I don't know yet how easy or hard this is going to be. So you can see now that we have this particular interface coming from the Apple II. This is describing, I'm going to pull up the manual so I don't get it wrong. So you can see in that upper left-hand corner, you have the letters, and then you have the numbers. The letters are indicating each of the unique tanks. So like I have tank A through D. And that number there is reminding me of the type, which is another reason why I went ahead and put on screen that legend for what the numbers map to. So at any time, if we're interested in like, oh, well, what are the attributes of my D tank, who's a type of 5? Well, I can see that it has 7 movement cost and very heavy armor and a very good gun. So yeah, those first 2 columns there are just my tanks. The third column there, the letter number combination, that is referring to one of these hexes. So essentially the way this map is broken down is each column is a letter and each row is a number. And that allows us to figure out where everything's at. Furthermore, each of these cardboards, which I'm not going to bring up to the screen because the autofocus is going to be crap, each of these cardboard markers tells you the type by name, because as I said before, on this back, it has the numbers. You can see right here. Like it has the type numbers, but then they also have a real tank name associated. Like number 5 is technically the Panzer 6B. So I have tokens here that say Panzer 6B. But then they also have a letter on them to map to which uniquely identifiable tank I have. There we go. Right over there. Right. So I should be able to have a Panzer 6B that has a letter A through D. And so A through D will be my tanks. So what I'm going to do now is go looking at what spaces that the computer's identified is where I need to place things, and then place my tanks there. And I've already punched out the Panzer Bs because I anticipate I was going to be lame. So it looks like I need I-16 for A. Now the final piece here is that 4th column that's all 1s. That is referring to the facing of the tank. So over here, you can kind of see it. Imagine the center here is where your tank is placed. Each of these numbers around it refer to the facing. So because that has a number of 1 on it, my tank is facing upwards on the map in the 1 direction. So you'll see that he's, you can't see because maybe the resolution's garbage, but his little tank turret's pointing up. So facing is also important in this game. Okay, what's the next one then? B is on D15. So I-16, not I-6. Okay. C is on F16. And D 15. Now you can imagine if I had picked multiple types of tanks, having the types and the letters on the tokens would mean a lot more. It just happens to be this time I don't. Okay, so that's what those first 4 columns mean. So now you also see that A through H column. That represents each of the enemy tanks, and they don't tell you where they're at. That is by design. So as we get in range, based off where we can look, we will reveal the locations of enemy tanks, and as we do, I can lay them on the board so we know where they were at, and potentially shoot at them. You cannot fire at tanks that you can't see. And then the objective is labeling where the objective is. So the objective is J6. There's J6. And that's essentially how you lay out the board. Terrain does play a role. So this down here, which you can't see because it's slightly off camera, is denoting how expensive it is to move on the various paths. So it has so it has 2 qualifiers: the basic movement points and then movement points with a path. So one of these clearings, these green spaces, have a movement point of 2, and with a road it's a movement point of 1. The brown is referred to as rough. That has a movement cost of 3, and with a road it's a cost of 2. Depressions, which I assume if you have to move into there, you are plenty depressed, has a cost of 5, and there are no roads. Woods, these deep greens, have a cost of 4 and a road cost of 2. And lakes you just cannot move through. So those do play a role. And we'll be considering that in what our... So it has movement cost associated with those tanks. At first I thought that was a cost, like it's expensive for us to move, but I wonder if what it really means is how much movement it has available, which means I picked a bunch of big, slow tanks. We'll find out. So, the final piece of this is going to be what is the win condition. So I believe the game ends when all of one team's tanks are destroyed. And that's now, like I said, that's when the game ends, but that doesn't determine the winner. You'll see that I have a score listed on the screen. So the score has its own system. It's not a hard system, but I'm not going to remember it offhand. Where is that? Yes. So, if I have the closest tank to the objective hex, I get 50 points. Each hex traversed towards the objective hex by each of my tanks is a single point. Each hex I traverse away from the objective hex with each tank is -1 point. Excuse me. And each turn played is -3 points. The computer gets 50 points if they get their tank closest to the objective. They get a half point for every movement, which, since they have twice the number of tanks, that kind of evens out. And they get a negative half point for moving away from the objective, and then each turn played does not cost the enemy anything. You also get points for destroying tanks. The amount of points you get is a function that increases the number of points as the number of tanks on the board reduces. So killing tanks early on, not worth many points, but as the game progresses, it becomes more and more valuable. So that's how the point system works, and the goal is to have a positive number of points by the end of the game. So essentially, you can imagine if the computer gets 50 points, that deducts 50 points from my points. I think that's 50 points at the end of the game. I believe it's just you kind of update what the total point value is for everybody, and whomever has the tank closest to the objective gets the points. And then how well you do depends on how many points you have. And as you can see, as the turns go on, I get fewer and fewer points, so I am motivated to do this in a shorter period of time. I think that details out everything. Now let's actually play. So, on a given turn, I can select a tank. So I'm going to select Let's start with Tank D, who's on a road. So, I can do a couple things. I can fire, I can look, or I can move. Okay, I'm going to want to move first. And the way movement works, as I said before, each of these directions have a number. I'm essentially going to be assembling a series of numbers in a row, which indicates each of the spaces I move. And I'm only supposed to hit enter once I've completed my movement sequence, and then it'll probably tell me whether I did it correctly or not. I'm going to read real quick the text for the movement, since I haven't done it yet. A series of 1 hex jumps. Sure. So you can enter a hex occupied by an enemy tank. One of the tanks is always destroyed. It's a 50-50 shot. So you have telefrag in this. You can also rotate the tank. So you can rotate your tank for the cost of 2 movement. And there's a 7 and 8. On the, like you can see the 7 here, it has an arrow going one way and 8 going the other way. Essentially, you spend 2 movement to rotate 1 padoink-a-doink around. That's my science words. Okay, so we're going to try moving D. So I'm just supposed to enter my numbers. Okay. So I want to move 2. Actually, first let's see how much this is going to be. So my dude has a movement of 7. So I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I can get him here by the road. So we'll do 2, 2, 1, and then a 6. And I'm happy to have him still facing forward. He's on G13. That he is. So, and you can see that as a tank uses its turn, it puts its letter in parentheses. Let's see. I want to get this dude on the road and get him just following. So let's see, that it would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so I can do that. So I'm going to select tank C. And we're going to move 1. And then 2, 2. And then 1. He's now H13. Yep, he sure is. And we're just going to truck around down that road. I think what we're going to do is let's see. Try to think of what would be the most efficient method here. I think I'm going to kind of cut straight up through here and head to the objective, because I'll encounter only 2 force and most of it will be just the planes. And I avoid all this rough stuff, and I don't want to try going through this. That sucks. So I'll get you onto the road as well. So let's see, that would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll just use the 5 movement, sure. So that would be tank A. So we're going to move 6 twice. Well, I can just do 6, 1. And use that H14 loop. Gotta do here 2, 4, 8. Well, you're just screwed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're just gonna snake along that road. So that would be B. Go 3. And then 2, 2. Yeah. Spin G15. And then it usually takes 10 to 20 seconds for the computer to go after I do my turn. No, their facing doesn't change. Actually, oh, I guess their facing does change. Good to know. Yeah, I guess they face where they move. Haha. See, this is why they have the extra column with the facing on it. I assume that because facing was a separate action, that you didn't get it for free when you moved. And that was a bad assumption. So I'll update this. So A is facing at 1, so that's right. B is facing at 2. Okay. Which, sure, this makes sense. C is facing at 1. Sure. And D is facing at 6. Yeah. So everyone just follow along that little road. Trucking along. So yeah, their facing does change as they move. Now what? Let's move this guy. Move D. It's got 7 movements. That's 2, 6. So this is where it gets ugly because we don't got roads. So D, you're gonna move 1, 1. And let's see. Actually, that guy could probably. That's 6. So C can just move up 2 and get here. So I might just do that. So C is moving 1, 1. Puts him at H11. Yep. Just like I thought it would. And A can do 2, 4, 6. Okay. So A is gonna move 1, 6, 1. G12. And now old B, who's hanging out behind, it's going to be 2, 4. Yep, we can get him right here. Cool. So that's going to be tank B. Move him 2, 1, 1. H12. I think you say thank you very much. Okay. So, we'll keep the shenanigans going. Let's start with D. We're going to move 2, 4. I don't know if it's worth doing that. Might do 4 and then turn him. So D is going to go 1, 1. And then he's going to rotate 8, which will point him in that direction. Yeah. G9 at 2. G9 at 2. Boy, how it's like I know how to play this game now. Okay, so let's move C. C's gonna move 2, 6. So he's just gonna move 1, 1. H9. Remember, I get points for getting closer, so being aggressive helps a bit. Let's move A. A's going to move 1. I'm sorry, B. 4, 6. So 1, 1. G10. And then B's going to do 1, 1. H10. So the manual states that stealth is really important. Yes, look is used to find the enemies. As I was saying though, the book states that it's important to try to get to the objective first. Aha, we see some enemies. Neat. They haven't destroyed any of my guys. That's good. They say stealth is an important factor in this, and so you should try to kind of sneak around and get the surprise. I don't quite know how to do that. Okay, so we gave the Russians all 1s, right? Which turns out most of the 1s were punched out. Isn't that hilarious? It's almost like the other person had the same idea I did. Person that used to own this. Okay, so we can start placing these. So Russia's A. Right. It's on L5. And has a facing of 5. So he's facing at D. C. Is that K4? Has a facing of 5. Well, gee whiz, this is starting to look like a thing. D as in dog. Is that H6? Oh, shit. And that's a facing of 5. And then E is at M9. It's a facing of 6. Yes, you are correct. I apologize. I thought I said that before, but yeah. Those letters are the enemy tanks, and as you see, their facings and their all that stuff is visible once you see them. I don't know what that absolute last column is. That's right, because they have letter space. The units which can see an enemy tank are listed. Okay. So you can see that D can see A. D can see... Yeah. D can see A. D can see C. So he's helping me there. I got this little small thing on the screen. B can see D. Right there. And C can see E. I don't know exactly. I guess it's because he just happens to be close enough. Let's blow some motherfuckers up. So let's start with D. Orders. To fire, press F. And then the ID letter of the tank you wish to fire on. Oh, D is going to have to fire at... Get some choices. C or A. C or A. I'm going to do A. I missed. Neat. Okay, let's try tank C. I'm gonna have him fire on tank E. I missed. They're very good at this. Which tank? Well, we still got B. B can help. B. Fire on D. Good job, gang. All right, A. A's gonna move. So I'm gonna do a 6 and a 1. He's at F8, just what I expect. It's kind of hoping to hit something. I have a very strong gun and very, very thick things. Okay. A, C, D, E, F. So we need to add F onto here. F is shown up to the party. F is at K8. Facing of 6. A is at J6. So there's on the objective. Facing a 5. I don't see B yet. C is on L6. Facing a 6. D is on J1. Wait, what? J4. Need to learn to read. Facing a 4. E is on K7. Fucking mess. Facing a 6. Yeah, this is a tank game. Alright. Who's got the closest shot here? C. Should take a shot at A. Okay. Cool. My A. You're gonna move 2, 4, 6. So I'm gonna move 2, 2. A's at H7. Facing a 2. I swear to God, I'm gonna hit somebody. D is at facing a 5. Wait, D's at facing a 5. Oh no, he's a type of 5. He's facing a 2. That makes sense. Yep. Okay, I want D's at G9. He's gonna go around. We're gonna do 6, 1, 2. He's at G7. Facing 2. Yep. And then B needs to do something. B's gonna go 6, 1, 6. Wait. Oh, good. Ha. So stars mean that that tank is dead, I believe. I have no idea. I assume that distance plays a part. Oh, God. Okay. If a tank is knocked out, its facing will be 0, and its ID letter will be bracketed in asterisks. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and just take A. Place that with a rack. This is going to be a short fight, friends. And then we got D. So I'm losing by quite a bit. Let's have tank C, fire an A. Yeah. So get wrecked. All right, B. Fire on E. E is now also burning. I forgot what overrun. I believe what overrun actually is it's when a tank, an enemy tank goes in the same hex as your tank, and it does the 50-50 roll. Let's see what we're at now. B is at K7. Oh, we killed B. Good or B hadn't appeared yet. I don't remember which. B is on K7. I had that labeled as a rack. He's facing 3. C is on J6. So C has decided to take the objective. Position 4. D is on J5. At position 5. F is gone. I don't know where F went. An H has just appeared. A wild H. J4 position 5. All right. So C's got to be the first to go. Cool. Good job, B. C firing B. Well, looks like my tank B is out. Okay, we have. Well, I'll just put the wreck there. Bucket. See, fire enough. C's probably gonna die this round anyway. Like this game's pretty much over. I see F at J5. Facing a 5. I don't know why the wrecks are here, because the wrecks aren't actually all that useful. G is at K7. Position 5. And H is at I5. Position 3. Move these wrecks off because I don't think they matter. I'm gonna move C up. Yeah. I can look. Oh, let me see. So it's not an absolute thing. There's a probability tied to it. When all else fails, put a random number in our right. The type of terrain between you and your enemy, the distance to the enemy, and the idea that you may be able to see an enemy unit which cannot see you, and vice versa. Combat is a little more sophisticated. Probability of getting a kill depends on the range, the type of tank that is shooting, the type of target target tank, bleh, facing of the target unit, and the terrain the target is in. Range effects are easy to understand. farther the target is, the harder it is to hit and destroy. Unit type is important to determine the firing gun size and the target's armor. Tanktics distinguishes front armor, side armor, and rear armor. The program calculates which side the tank is exposed and uses the facing armor in its kill calculation. Terrain is significant for the cover it provides. Yeah, so we don't get exact description. Let me read you what the playing hits say. This is primarily a game of searching and hiding. Stealth is critical to success. The player who learns to read terrain and choose positions which offer the best combination of concealment and fields of fire will be most successful. One must be prepared for combat at any moment, for there's no way to know when the enemy will pop up. The only way to be so prepared is to move along routes which give good concealment. It may be a good idea to keep a few scouts in rough terrain so they can see ahead of the main body. When you make contact with the enemy, concentrate the maximum firepower at the closest tanks. Do not keep reserve tanks waiting in the rear. Reserves are a luxury that you can ill afford when you are outnumbered 2 to 1. Always contrive to have the computer attack you, that way you can shoot while it moves. A very advantageous arrangement. However, when the computer tanks start to close in on yours, it's time to run. Close range firefights are very bloody, and a 1-for-1 trade-off is not your advantage. Mobility is just as much part of the game as firepower. And the wish is that I hope that I find the simulation both satisfying and stimulating. Yeah, I'd agree. It seems like playing with fewer units might have actually been a disadvantage because like there's no opportunity for me to scout, right? Because I have essentially like I could send 1 tank ahead. That's a fourth of my units. In addition, I picked all heavy slow tanks, which doesn't seem to benefit me in this particular engagement. I had misread the movement cost. And that's actually a amount of movement available to the unit. So, do I feel stimulated? It was a bit of work to move all the pieces around. I could see where this would be a great novelty for a wargame enthusiast who wants to play solitary games. I am not a fan of the lack of information the instructions are providing. It tries to be clever by virtue of using vague terms like weak versus good armor. Saying, oh, well, you should use cover and then try to get a good lookout. But, like, what gives me good cover? I guess the woods are probably more cover than the clear, but is the rough more cover or less cover? I don't know if... Like, I would assume that the rough is a hill, but it's called rough, not hills. So, I don't know if I should be going on them and using them as lookouts or not. Like, that's difficult to determine. And, honestly, it's a bit lame that they're using random number generation for the visibility. Like... It means that as you're playing, it's never, I know that there's nothing there because I would see it otherwise. It's something might not be there. I don't know. So there's portions of how the game plays that should be explained better so that you understand what's going on. And overall, like, I played the game absolutely wrong. Like, I tried to go for the objective, which was a suggestion made, correct? Because honestly, that's where the computer's going to go. But I didn't give much thought to how I would get there and how I might flank the enemy. I suppose what you could do, and also maybe it's just part of the simulation, but I do find it a bit unfair that the more turns I take, the fewer points I get. I mean, I guess the point of that is supposed to be that the points are acting as a ranking, but I might spend more points for a better strategy, so I don't know. But I could see in this particular scenario where maybe you want to send your couple scouts up here to see what's going on and send the bulk of your units around the road and try to flank from behind. And so maybe you can draw some of the enemy over here and then you bamboozle them from here from the cover. But I don't quite understand what the likelihood is of them seeing me along the way and what an effective strategy would be. I don't know, Doc, what do you think? So maybe try just to blow up all the other tanks and forget. Sure, maybe. I'll admit I was focusing on the points partly because... Yeah. As I say, I assume that I'd lean more into the points only because it's simultaneously a ranking and a win condition. But maybe I'm just putting too much stock in having positive points. Oh, the back of this actually has the combat defense value. So if you're in the clear, you have poor combat defense. If you're in the rough, you have moderate. If you're in depression, you have very good combat defense, and the woods are also moderate. So it seems like the woods and the rough have equal combat defense. Yeah, I mean, your assumption's correct. I actually did read that. Only tanks that can see the other tanks can attack. Let me see what look does exactly. To determine which enemy tanks you can see, simply press the letter L, and all the visible enemy tanks will be listed. Command isn't... So look isn't a... That's weird, because I already have that list. Unless that just forces the recalculation of that list when I blow stuff up. Because the way look reads, it doesn't use my turn. Like, I can still do other things. So I don't understand why look exists. Yeah, it does state here that the frontal armor is the thickest armor, so you generally wouldn't be facing the enemy. No, I think you're right, Doc, about the point stuff. Yeah, I think it's a very concise simulation. Like it's right, it's very clearly aimed at exploring the situation of being outnumbered and kind of playing stick and move tactics with tanks, right? Because we're not dealing with any specific battle, and the variety of units is kind of limited. I'm not quite sure how the stationary guns will work, because I don't think you get an opportunity to place those yourself. So maybe you're supposed to try to draw the enemy towards you. Excuse me. But if there's an objective, then like I assume they're just gonna go towards the objective. So yeah, it'd be an interesting game to play a little bit every now and again and try to kind of figure a way around. Yeah, and it's been me thinking through how you get advantages. That's the trick here. So I guess I probably should have had at least one or two fast tanks just to scout, because right, you can't take advantage of facing unless you know where the enemy's facing. The other thing too is dealing with the fact that you cannot move and fire. You may only move or fire. So yeah, it's like almost you need to, like, if you're suggesting ambush, right? Like I have to wait for an ambush because it's most advantageous for me to have them stumble into my line of sight because now I have the initiative. And by giving them the fast tanks, essentially I put myself at the disadvantage because they already got to the objective and they could set up an ambush. I kind of did that to myself. Yeah, I could see if the tanks will draw out. Like, I don't see why the computer has no reason to move away from the objective. If they fortified the objective, like, they get 50 points for being at the objective, plus they continue to get more points with the longer the game goes. So there's not much advantage of them hunting my guys down, so I don't suspect they're actually going to chase me. And reading that manual and its wording about how the AI is probably going to work, that seems to also suggest that the Russians are going to play very conservatively, which makes it tough if they fortified. Like, the most I could think to do would be try to find a straggler and get the advantage on it and then destroy it. Maybe using my cover. I guess that's the only thing I could think of is me being able to see them before they see me would be a matter of me taking cover. But I don't know what gives more cover and what gives less cover. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna have to. I have to play with it a lot more to really understand how to manipulate their movement. It's like what I observed on here was they were kind of milling about the objective a bit, but like they weren't drawing in here. They're waiting for me to come to them. Maybe if they see me in the rear, they'll move away. So maybe that's a way to do it. Yeah. And again, But one of the big hurdles here was I picked slow, heavy guys, and I feel like everything about this game, and maybe that's war in general, Doc, you can tell me more because I don't do wargaming much, but it seems like the big advantage goes to the defender in this. Because chances are, since it's a random roll whether you see the enemy or not, but let's say, for the exception of cover, which this particular objective key or objective hex has plenty of cover areas, chances are that we have equal chance of seeing each other when we're put in range, which puts a disadvantage to the person entering the field of view. Therefore, being the defender just works out better. That's what I'm grokking from all this. There's only 5 scenarios, and there's a lot of board here. So I wonder if they focus each of the scenarios on like a different area and just kind of stitch the map together. I feel like I tend to be the kind of person that likes to play collaboratively. Even though this is meant to be a solitary strategy game, I feel like this would be a fun game to have 1 or 2 people with where we're all trying to defeat the computer together. I see. Yeah, I feel like the two primary interesting experiments to run with this would be, one, how do you deal with a fortified defender? Like, are there ways to draw them out? Are there ways to pull them, to flank them, or otherwise? And then secondly, how do you yourself become a fortified defender? So yeah, anyway, this is Tanktics. Doc, any closing questions or thoughts before we shut down the stream? Yeah, I feel like that forcing a change in facing is really when you do manage to flank them. Yeah, see, you gotta come on down to Seattle, play some Tanktics at some point. Got the old Apple II over here. Yes, there's a lot of good getting with this. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap this up. This is a bit more of a low-key stream, so anyone who's watching after the fact, hopefully there's something you got out of this. Like, it's a very low-fidelity game, but I read Chris Crawford's books in high school, and Chris Crawford is the designer of this game, so I had heard about it, and I never got the chance to play it, and I saw this at Goodwill, and I thought, oh man, finally. And it is an interesting game, and it gives me an excuse to use the Apple II, which is really cool. So maybe we'll see this again. Maybe I'll try some other Apple II games, we'll see. Like, getting the Apple II onto the FrameMeister was surprisingly easy, so there might be more opportunity there. Anyhow, until then, take care, and thanks for watching.
got a hand-me-down.